All right, guys, welcome back to the YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be going over some speculative plays that I've been talking about on my other socials, such as TikTok and Instagram, that being Sweetgreen and Snapchat. Now, I know that these companies have been down in the gutters. We have Sweetgreen here. Hasn't fully broken out of this trend at all, right? Continuing to go down. However, it just swept a key level. So I just want to make this clear. I like to trade off of breaks of key support, right? This right after an earnings event, I would say it's a very viable support, right? Right at this 864 level. If we go over here, and we see, okay, what exactly happened here? We had an earnings miss, right? Not good earnings. However, the Sweetgreen is just starting to get on their feet. Yes, they're below their IPO price. Yes, they're trying to figure out what exactly their business model is, their pricing, stuff like that. But when I see a huge gap down, and if I drop to the 4-hour and see, not only a ton of volume at a sweep of liquidity, right? If you can see this, there's this tiny little wick, right? Sweep of liquidity. A ton of people just got stopped out. On top of that, people entering off of this, longing this because of that, may have also gotten stopped out here. There might have been volume great enough, right? C, if you see the crosshair, there might have been volume greater enough to get people out of that trade, get people to close their longs and to have other people enter in long, that's what I think. And if we just take a look at the financials, I don't even have to see it because I've already known it, but their revenue is supposed to really be doing good. The CAGR in 4 years is just unbelievable. We're seeing like a doubling of revenue based on what analysts are projecting. Really key growth. Sweetgreen is, establishing in many different states, many different cities, because their goal right now is to, not saturate the market, but get a hold of market share that, they don't yet have by expanding, right? And yes, they're not going to be making much money until that because it's going to be all going into expansion. This could, change or whatnot. However, this revenue is what I really like. Now, analysts agree. Pretty straightforward. This is a tailwind. I don't love to go off of, what analysts say. Sometimes it's just giving me the, directive bias, but nobody's really saying to sell this on the street. It's more so holds and strong buys, which I would say that's a buy, right? Their price target could be, wacky or whatnot, but just to get back to $21 after being at 43 again, I know it's very speculative. 124%. That's huge. Man, gotta keep it together here. I'm like burping. But Sweetgreen is a buy in my eyes. I'm not really sure what else there is besides just doing research on exactly what the stock is doing. But there's a ton of people that like Sweetgreen, and on top of that, if you say, okay, yeah, you can buy Chipotle, you absolutely could buy Chipotle. Chipotle is on a massive dip, right? Generational opportunity, if I say, right? To get back to those all-time highs, it is upwards of 50%. However, CMG, Sweetgreen divided by CMG in shares, Sweetgreen being the numerator here is bouncing at this key support, which tells me Sweetgreen is a better buy at this time than Chipotle if it respects this, which I believe that it will. And even if we go up to these highs, that is a clear multiple for Sweetgreen's direction, right? I want to move into the second stock here that I want to talk about, and that's Snapchat, because I believe that, companies like Meta with, Facebook, Instagram, even YouTube, they have really strong monetization platforms, right? Where they can have a solid stream of revenue. With Snapchat, I think that they're just figuring that out. You know, we see Snapchat Premium, we see the ads that they run when you swipe to people's stories. I think it's getting there. And I think that they're continuing to focus on that path, you know? And again, being the investor that I am, here's what I like to see. I want to pop in and I want to see, okay, they're going to slowly be coming closer to break even. They're going to go from, again, 5 billion in revenue to 7, which is a decent CAGR, right? It's not as good as Sweetgreen's. However, you know, we have a lot more data supporting the fact that, okay, buying at this range low with that as a catalyst is going to be a good opportunity. And again, let's see what analysts are saying, because some of them are going to be like, okay, might go down, might go up, right? And it looks like it's more in the up direction. A lot of people are saying to hold this, but you know, I'm not big on a sell standpoint. You know, why would I want to sell here? It doesn't make sense to short it here. If we're range bound, this is exactly what I think of. We're ranging, we're accumulating volume, we're hitting earnings with the exception of the last one. And again, guys, we hit earnings. We miss earnings. Ton of volume gets put in. What do? We go hunt for this stop, right? Stop loss hit. Boom. It's another great idea. But when I see a chart like this of just ranging, I think about Robinhood, you know? I think about down here when they didn't have their stuff figured out. They came all the way down. We're just ranging. We're just putting in volume. We're ranging. We're trying to figure out what's happening, right? And buying at these lows, just like in Snapchat, I think is one of the smartest things you could do, especially if you have vested interest in the company and you want to invest, you know? Robinhood had a long period of time. You know, I would say that the range started around here, ended here. That was for years. I mean, that's for 2 years almost. And when I go back to Snapchat, which was, you know, that was 680 days. If I go back to Snapchat in their range, it's going to be a little bit longer, but it doesn't matter in my eyes how long the consolidation is going to last for, because if there is a legit tailwind in that direction and we're buying at these lows, it's just like buying Intel. Like again, Intel at these lows in this range is silly not to buy. You know, I would say I'm a bit of a contrarian. Jump on the weekly. And again, like, I hate to yap and talk about why you should buy companies that are not looked as, you know, good investments in the media. But I mean, look how much volume Intel is putting in. And yes, that's because the, you know, media has given it eyes, but nobody's letting it go below $18 pretty much. You know, no one's selling it off of there. Same with Snapchat. It's not like it's like, you know, in the case of like Neo, where it's like, hey, like, you know, okay, we have earnings maybe on the way, revenue definitely on the way, right? Great. Neo's been a falling knife, right? I know that it's getting a little bit of traction here. There's been a ton of volume. I've been thinking of buying as well, especially down here. Like, you can always average down, but this is a clear trend that needs to be broken. With Snapchat, it's not one that has even started. It's just ranging. So if you're putting in buys at the bottom of the range, it makes total sense to me. I could go on this rant all the time, but that's pretty much the only two things I wanted to talk about, because, you know, they are parts of my portfolio. I want to be transparent, you know, and I can, again, show this on here. We have a sell put on Snapchat, which is going to get assigned next week, given that Snapchat is at 720. We have shares right now currently in the retirement account. Right, so we have 200 shares, selling calls on that. But, you know, the average cost on here is not too bad, right? 747. Yes, that means that we're down a little bit, but I think that Snapchat give it some time, and we are definitely going to see some sort of reversal in my eyes. Again, not advice, right? Not advice. It even says here. So I'm preaching. But I would say that Snapchat is below fair value, as well as Sweetgreen. And I don't even know if there's a research report for Sweetgreen. But this is, again, there's not. My personal opinion. So we'll catch you guys next week. Appreciate you for tuning in. Try to keep these pretty much as short as possible, but still spread a good value. And yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.